So you mean to tell me you saw me, liked me, wanted me, chased me, got me, and then you fumbled me? What?
It only takes one time for a man to show me he don't want me for real. Cause it only take one time for you to go through my phone and see who do, baby. Humble yourself.
A young mother who was killed in the shooting. It happened at a home off 22nd Avenue Southwest and Trotter Road in unincorporated Largo at around 1:45 Saturday afternoon. 10 Tampa Bay's Angelina Salcido is live at the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
And Angie, you spoke to family not long ago.
Yeah, it has been a very tough Christmas Eve and Christmas for this family, now grieving the loss of this 23-year-old mother of two who deputies say was shot and killed by her own 14-year-old brother. I want you to take a look at who we're talking about here. This is Abrielle Baldwin and her two sons. You can see them in the photo there. 6-year-old Jamari and Amir, who is just 11 months old. Her sister gave me this photo after we spoke moments ago. She says their family is heartbroken about her loss in this entire situation as they plan her funeral right before the new year. Now, Bree was killed Christmas Eve in a shooting here at her grandmother's home in Largo after deputies say a fight broke out between her 14 and 15-year-old brothers earlier in the day. Investigators say that fight was reportedly over how many Christmas gifts each brother was getting while the family was shopping.
She's just a woman going about life, doing her thing with her two kids, trying to make a living. We got the 14-year-old who's mad at the 15-year-old because mom's not buying equal amounts of gifts to get to grandma's house, and he takes out his gun and tells him he's going to shoot him in the head. So DeMarcus tries to get Darkus to fight. Darkus said he didn't want to fight and told him to get out of the house, and he didn't want anything to do with him. DeMarcus was standing by a parked vehicle in the driveway when Abrielle told DeMarcus, quote, "You all need to leave that stuff alone. Why are you trying to start it? It's Christmas." And at that point, Abrielle was in the driveway and she was carrying her 10-month-old baby in a carrier in her hand. DeMarcus then began arguing with Abrielle and used some very, very derogatory language that I won't repeat at all, and all kinds of profanity. DeMarcus then moved toward Abrielle and shot her in the chest with a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun, again, while she's carrying the baby. Abrielle fell to the ground, so did the baby. The baby wasn't hurt because the baby was in a carrier. So when DeMarcus falls to the ground, Darkus comes out of the house. And again, Darkus is 15, and he takes out his .45 caliber semi-automatic handgun because, again, and I'll say this sarcastically, just normal that all these kids, that's what you do, right? You just carry handguns. When you get in a spat with your sibling, you take out your guns and you have a gun battle. So he takes out his gun and...
Imagine this. It is Christmas Eve. A family is together inside one house. Children are laughing. Gifts are nearby. No one thinks danger is coming. One moment later, a gun is fired. A young mother falls to the floor. Her baby is still on her chest. The person who pulled the trigger is not a stranger. It is her own brother. How did a family moment turn into a crime scene? What happened inside that house? And how did an argument become deadly? Stay with us to understand this case from beginning to end. You're watching Global Crime Venue, where viral fame hides chilling secrets. From TikTok dancers and Instagram couples to rising Facebook personalities, we reveal the dark side of the spotlight. When the perfect posts turn into tragedies, we break down exactly how it all unraveled. These aren't just online stories, they're real cases with real victims. And while you're here, tell us where you're watching from in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new case breakdown. In our next episode, we'll dive into another shocking story of love, control, and a hidden danger that no one saw coming. Here's the untold side of what really happened. Christmas Eve arrived in Largo, Florida, with calm winter weather and quiet streets. Homes were decorated with lights, and families traveled to visit relatives before the holiday ended. Stores had closed early, and people returned home after shopping for food and gifts. Inside one home, the evening followed a familiar pattern. Family members arrived throughout the day, greeting one another and settling in. Shoes were placed near the entrance, and phones were set aside. Conversations moved easily from one room to another. Nothing about the evening seemed unusual or alarming at that time. The gathering took place inside a grandmother's house, a location often used for family visits and celebrations. The house was familiar to everyone present and had hosted many similar occasions before. Furniture was arranged to allow space for visitors to move around. A television played quietly in the background, and food containers were placed on tables and counters. The rooms were filled with people talking, standing, and sitting where space allowed. The setting was stable and comfortable, reflecting a normal family environment during the holiday season. Multiple generations shared the same space that evening. Adults spoke about everyday topics while keeping an eye on the younger family members. Teenagers moved in and out of rooms, talking among themselves. Children stayed close to relatives or sat nearby. Some family members checked their phones, while others focused on conversations. There was no formal schedule or planned activity. People interacted freely, creating a casual and unstructured gathering that matched many Christmas Eve visits in other homes. Holiday-related items were visible throughout the house. Gift bags and wrapped boxes were placed near furniture and walls. Some presents had already been opened earlier in the day, while others remained untouched. Wrapping paper and boxes were stacked in corners. Short discussions about gifts came and went. The presence of these items did not disrupt the flow of the gathering. Everything appeared organized enough for the moment, with no sense of urgency or disorder. The grandmother's house served as a central meeting place where family members felt comfortable moving from room to room. Adults held children, passed them to others, or placed them nearby while talking. Voices carried easily through the home, allowing conversations to overlap. Small groups formed and separated naturally as people moved. The layout encouraged constant interaction, making it easy for discussions to begin without drawing attention. As the evening continued, nothing about the gathering suggested it would become anything other than a normal holiday visit. No conflict was visible. No emergency services were involved. The house remained active but calm. From outside, the home appeared quiet and ordinary. From inside, it reflected a typical Christmas Eve spent among family, with shared space, routine conversation, and a steady flow of movement. Several siblings were present in the house at the same time, creating a busy and layered family structure. The group included adults, teenagers, and very young children. Relationships between them were close, but not always calm. Each person occupied a different role based on age and responsibility. Older family members expected younger ones to listen. Younger ones sought attention or independence. This mix shaped how people interacted. Conversations crossed over one another. Directions were given and ignored. The setting reflected a family used to sharing space without strict order, which allowed small issues to surface quickly. Among the siblings were teenage brothers who moved freely through the home. They were old enough to act independently but still under adult supervision. Their behavior shifted between playful and tense. They spoke louder than others and reacted quickly during discussions. They were not isolated in one area and were part of the general movement in the house. Their presence added energy and unpredictability. They responded to comments immediately and did not withdraw from disagreements. Their interactions influenced the tone of nearby conversations without stopping the gathering as a whole. The age gap between siblings played a role in how authority was understood. Adults expected compliance from the teenagers. The teens expected to be heard rather than corrected. When instructions were given, responses varied. Some followed directions. Others questioned them. This uneven balance made it difficult to settle disagreements quickly. No clear figure controlled the group at all times. Authority shifted depending on who was speaking. This allowed arguments to continue longer than necessary, even in the presence of younger family members. Children were also present throughout the home, including infants and toddlers. They were held, carried, or placed near relatives. Their needs were addressed alongside ongoing conversations. Feeding, calming, and supervising happened at the same time as discussions between older family members. The children relied on adults for safety and direction. They did not understand the tensions around them. Their presence required attention, but did not stop disagreements from forming between others in the room. Movement inside the house remained constant because of the number of people involved. Siblings crossed paths frequently, sometimes interrupting one another. Teenagers moved between adults and children without separation. This made interactions unavoidable. When one person spoke, Several others were within hearing distance. Privacy was limited. Any disagreement became shared information almost immediately. This environment increased the chance that a small dispute could draw in multiple people without intention. The disagreement began after discussions about Christmas gifts moved from casual comments to direct complaints. Several items had been purchased earlier that day, and expectations about who should receive what became unclear. Some gifts were opened, while others remained untouched, which caused confusion. Questions were asked about fairness and decisions made earlier. The topic shifted from curiosity to frustration as assumptions replaced explanations. What started as talk about presents turned into competing claims over who was treated equally. As the discussion continued, voices increased in volume. Teenagers spoke more forcefully, responding quickly to comments they disagreed with. Interruptions became frequent. Instead of waiting for responses, statements overlapped. Words were exchanged without pauses, and the tone of the conversation changed. People nearby became aware of the situation without being directly involved. The raised voices carried through the house, drawing attention from others in different rooms. The disagreement did not follow a clear order. Multiple people attempted to speak at once. Some defended previous decisions, while others insisted they were ignored. The lack of a single speaker allowed the exchange to escalate. No one stepped back to slow the conversation. The argument remained focused on gifts, but the underlying issue shifted toward feeling overlooked or dismissed. The discussion became louder without becoming clearer. Abrielle Baldwin was nearby when the voices continued to rise. She was holding her infant at the time, with the child secured against her body. She observed the situation as it unfolded and recognized the growing tension. She did not introduce new points into the discussion. Instead, she directed her words toward stopping it. Her attention was on ending the disagreement rather than participating in it. She spoke clearly and addressed the teenagers involved. Her message was simple and direct. She told them to stop arguing and reminded them of the occasion. Her statement was intended to interrupt the exchange and shift focus away from the conflict. She did not raise her voice to match theirs. She did not insult or accuse anyone. Her goal was to end the discussion so the gathering could continue without disruption. The argument paused briefly after she spoke, but the tension did not fully disappear. The raised voices lowered for a moment, yet the situation remained unstable. The disagreement had already progressed beyond simple complaints. What followed occurred quickly, without further discussion resolving the issue. Abrielle's attempt to stop the argument marked the final effort to return the household to order before the situation changed entirely. A firearm was present inside the house that evening, though it was not openly displayed during the gathering. The weapon was located within the home environment, where multiple people moved freely between rooms. It was not secured in a way that prevented access. No clear barrier separated the firearm from the individuals inside the residence. Its presence did not appear to be known or discussed by everyone in the house at that time. The gathering continued as usual while the weapon remained available within the shared space. At some point during the ongoing tension, a teenage family member was able to reach the firearm. The teenager did not encounter resistance while accessing it. There was no delay caused by locks or supervision. The movement toward the weapon occurred within the home, not outside of it. This access happened during an active family gathering, with several people nearby. The ability for a minor to obtain the firearm marked a critical change in the situation. The teenager who gained access to the weapon was under the age of legal adulthood. Despite this, no immediate restriction stopped the process. The home contained adults, yet none intervened in time to prevent the firearm from being handled. The presence of others did not result in immediate awareness. No one physically blocked the teen or removed the weapon once it was obtained. The moment passed without interruption. The firearm was now in the hands of someone who lacked the maturity and legal authority to possess it. There was no pause to reconsider or redirect the situation. The weapon was not taken away or secured once it became visible. The conditions inside the home allowed the situation to continue unchecked. The lack of immediate response allowed events to move forward rapidly. No adult stepped in to regain control once the weapon became involved. There was no verbal command that successfully stopped the progression. There was no physical action taken to remove the firearm from the teenager. Supervision failed at a critical point. The authority normally expected from older family members did not materialize in that moment. The environment shifted from verbal disagreement to a dangerous scenario without resistance. The situation changed in seconds once the firearm was handled. A single shot was fired inside the house, breaking the flow of voices and movement. The sound came from close range and echoed through the rooms. The bullet struck Abrielle Baldwin in the upper body. She had been standing near other family members at the time. There was no warning given before the trigger was pulled. The discharge marked the point where the gathering turned into an active crime scene. Abrielle was holding her infant when the shot hit her. The child was secured against her chest in a baby carrier. The baby was not being passed to anyone else and had not been set down. When Abrielle was struck, she collapsed with the infant still attached to her body. The child did not fall separately and was not removed immediately. This detail became critical in later reports because it showed how close the child was to the impact. People inside the house reacted immediately after the gunshot. Some moved backward. Others froze in place. Conversations stopped at once. Attention shifted toward Abrielle and the person holding the weapon. There was confusion about what had just happened. The house, which moments earlier had been filled with movement, became disorganized. No one understood the full situation yet, but the sound of the shot made it clear that serious harm had occurred. After the first discharge, additional gunfire occurred. More than one round was fired inside the residence. These shots did not strike Abrielle again, but they increased the danger within the home. Family members attempted to distance themselves from the immediate area. The presence of multiple shots caused further confusion and panic. The sequence happened quickly, with little time between each action. During the continued gunfire, the infant remained physically unharmed. The child stayed secured in the carrier throughout the incident. Others nearby focused on stopping the situation and assessing injuries. No attempt was made to continue any argument. The focus shifted entirely to survival and safety. The house environment no longer functioned as a gathering space, but as a location of an active emergency. Once the gunfire stopped, Abrielle was unresponsive. The weapon was no longer being discharged, but the danger had already taken effect. People began calling for help. Emergency services were contacted. Efforts were made to assist Abrielle while waiting for responders to arrive. The infant was eventually removed from her chest and placed with others for safety. Police and emergency responders arrived at the scene within minutes of the gunfire being reported. Officers entered the home after being alerted by calls from family members who were present. They assessed the situation immediately, identifying individuals in need of assistance and ensuring the area was secure. The firearm was located, and officers separated those involved to prevent further incidents. The initial response focused on safety, preventing additional harm, and establishing control over the chaotic environment inside the house. Paramedics arrived shortly after law enforcement and quickly evaluated Abrielle Baldwin's condition. They noted critical injuries from the gunshot wound and assessed vital signs to determine the immediate medical needs. Life-saving procedures were initiated inside the home while preparations were made for transport. Emergency personnel worked under controlled but urgent conditions, focusing on stabilizing her as much as possible before moving her to the ambulance. The infant was also secured and placed under protective care during this time. Once stabilized for transport, Abrielle was placed in the ambulance alongside necessary medical equipment. Paramedics continued interventions during the ride to the hospital, monitoring her condition and providing support. The route to the hospital was chosen for speed and access to advanced care. Communication between emergency teams and the hospital was ongoing, ensuring that staff would be ready to continue treatment immediately upon arrival. The focus remained entirely on maintaining vital signs and preventing further deterioration. During the ambulance ride, emergency responders coordinated with law enforcement to provide a full report of the situation. Details about the location, the individuals involved, and the firearm were shared to support subsequent investigation and maintain scene security. Responders remained vigilant, observing both Abrielle's condition and the environment around the vehicle to prevent complications. Every step followed standardized emergency protocols designed to maximize survival chances in life-threatening incidents. Upon arrival at the hospital, Abrielle was quickly transferred to the trauma team. Doctors and nurses received a detailed handover from the paramedics, including the time of injury, condition upon first contact, and interventions already performed. The hospital team began immediate treatment, including monitoring for internal bleeding and attempting to stabilize vital signs. Procedures were initiated to determine the extent of injuries and address life-threatening complications, following established trauma care protocols. Despite efforts by the medical staff, Abrielle Baldwin's injuries were severe. Doctors continued interventions for an extended period, but the damage caused by the gunshot wound was fatal. Medical personnel documented the timeline, treatment efforts, and outcome for official records. The hospital coordinated with law enforcement to ensure that the incident was fully recorded as part of the investigation. The final outcome marked the conclusion of emergency efforts and transitioned the case from active response to investigation and legal review. The emergency response phase involved rapid coordination between multiple agencies, including police, paramedics, and hospital staff. Each team followed protocol to address immediate threats, provide life-saving care, and document events. While the focus remained on preservation of life and safety, the circumstances of the incident required careful attention to detail and strict adherence to procedure. Following the incident, law enforcement focused on identifying all parties involved and securing the scene for investigation. Officers interviewed family members and witnesses to determine the sequence of events. Evidence was collected, including the firearm and any related materials. Once the immediate situation was stabilized, attention shifted to the individuals directly responsible for the shooting. Investigators coordinated with the juvenile division due to the ages of the suspects, preparing for formal arrests. 2 brothers, both minors, were taken into custody shortly after authorities confirmed their involvement. One was identified as the individual who discharged the firearm, while the other played a role in the sequence of events that followed. Both were separated from other family members and transported to a secure location under supervision. Law enforcement ensured that standard juvenile procedures were followed during transportation and processing. This included informing the suspects of their rights and documenting the circumstances surrounding their arrest. The charges filed against the 2 brothers reflected the severity of their actions and their ages. The younger sibling, who fired the weapon, faced first-degree murder charges, as well as additional counts related to child endangerment and unlawful possession of a firearm by a minor. The older sibling was charged with attempted first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and other related offenses. Each charge followed statutory guidelines for juvenile offenders, balancing legal responsibility with the protections afforded to minors under the law. During processing, both suspects underwent evaluation to determine their physical and mental condition. Officials assessed their ability to understand the charges and participate in legal proceedings. Juvenile law requires careful review of a minor's competence to stand trial or appear in court. These evaluations help determine the next steps, including placement in secure juvenile facilities and preparation for hearings before the court. The assessment process ensured that the legal system followed proper procedures for underage offenders. The legal process then formally began with initial hearings scheduled for both brothers. Family members, attorneys, and state representatives were involved to provide input on custody, representation, and pretrial procedures. The court reviewed evidence, confirmed charges, and addressed questions regarding detention or release. The proceedings adhered to the rules governing juvenile cases, which often differ from adult trials in terms of confidentiality, sentencing possibilities, and facility placement. The hearings established the framework for moving the case forward through the legal system. Investigators continued to gather evidence while the suspects were in custody. Statements from witnesses, physical evidence from the scene, and forensic analyses were compiled for review. Law enforcement worked closely with prosecutors to ensure that the charges matched the evidence collected. This preparation formed the basis for potential trials or hearings in juvenile court. Each step was documented to maintain accountability and transparency in the legal process, providing a clear record of events and decisions. After the shooting, attention shifted to Abrielle Baldwin's 2 young sons, who had been present during the incident. Both children were physically unharmed, but the environment around them had suddenly changed. They were placed in the care of other family members while authorities and emergency responders managed the immediate aftermath. The children remained with relatives in the house briefly before arrangements were made to ensure their safety outside the residence. Their survival became a primary concern for adults present at the scene. The infants and toddlers were removed from areas near the firearm and kept at a distance from ongoing investigations. Law enforcement and child protective services coordinated to provide supervision and basic care. Food, comfort, and monitoring were offered to the children to prevent any additional risk. Their routines were interrupted abruptly, and they experienced rapid relocation from familiar settings to controlled environments designed for safety. The process aimed to maintain as much stability as possible under critical circumstances. Although both children survived physically, the emotional impact of losing a parent was immediate in practical terms. There was no mother to return home to care for them, feed them, or oversee their daily needs. Responsibilities typically handled by Abrielle now fell to relatives, authorities, or foster arrangements. Decisions regarding their temporary or long-term placement were initiated to ensure continuity of care, including access to basic necessities and support services for children who have experienced trauma in their household. Authorities documented the situation for each child, including names, ages, and immediate needs. This record-keeping was necessary for legal, protective, and investigative purposes. Any information about their exposure to the shooting was carefully recorded to assist in future decisions regarding custody or court proceedings. Social workers and law enforcement ensured that all steps taken were in compliance with regulations for minors who have witnessed or been near a violent incident. Support systems for the children were activated quickly. Extended family members were engaged to provide temporary care, while agencies assessed the best possible arrangements. Medical personnel evaluated both children for potential injuries, stress indicators, or other health concerns, even though no physical trauma had been recorded. Ensuring both safety and stability became a structured priority in the hours and days following the incident. Daily routines for the children were significantly altered. They no longer had a primary caregiver present. Activities such as feeding, sleeping, and supervised play were coordinated by others who stepped in to maintain normalcy. The transition involved constant monitoring, structured care schedules, and adjustments to environments they were unfamiliar with. The absence of their mother created a new reality that required rapid adaptation by everyone responsible for their care. The aftermath of the incident immediately drew attention from the local community. Neighbors, friends, and extended family members expressed concern over the events that had unfolded in what had been a routine family gathering. Many residents visited the home to offer support, while others contacted authorities for updates on the situation. Local organizations and community leaders became involved to provide guidance and assistance to the family, especially concerning the care of the children left behind. The event quickly became a topic of discussion across multiple social circles in the area. Media outlets reported on the shooting, detailing the circumstances, the involvement of the teenage siblings, and the resulting death. News coverage highlighted the rapid escalation from a family disagreement to a fatal event. Journalists presented the facts about the incident, including the location, the ages of those involved, and the charges filed. This reporting contributed to widespread awareness, prompting local discussions on safety, supervision, and conflict resolution within homes. Community members followed updates closely as they processed the reality of a family tragedy occurring in their vicinity. Authorities and organizations encouraged public conversations about holiday safety and the risks associated with domestic gatherings. The timing of the incident, occurring during a traditionally celebratory period, raised questions about stress factors and decision-making under pressure. Workshops and local meetings were proposed to address conflict management and to educate households on reducing potential risks during gatherings. Officials emphasized that ordinary disputes could escalate quickly, particularly when firearms were present. Gun safety became a focal point for community leaders and parents. Recommendations included securing firearms in locked containers, keeping ammunition separate, and ensuring that minors could not access weapons. Educational programs stressed the importance of household rules regarding firearms, particularly in homes with children and teenagers. Safety demonstrations and informational resources were offered to highlight preventive measures, and reduce the likelihood of similar incidents in other households. Schools and youth organizations were prompted to hold discussions about the consequences of handling firearms and the responsibilities of minors. The incident was presented as a case study to examine decision-making, legal implications, and the potential for tragedy when access to weapons is uncontrolled. These sessions focused on practical guidance for adolescents, including the importance of communicating with adults and understanding legal consequences. The educational approach aimed to prevent replication of such events in other communities. Law enforcement and social services monitored the broader impact on local families following the shooting. Counseling services were provided for children and teenagers affected indirectly by the event. Community centers offered spaces for discussions on family safety, legal awareness, and responsible supervision. Officials worked to reinforce preventive strategies that included monitoring high-risk situations and promoting awareness about the dangers associated with firearms in the home environment. And that concludes today's case. But remember, this is just one of countless stories the world has yet to uncover. Here on Global Crime Venue, our mission is to uncover the facts, honor the victims who can no longer speak, and make sure their stories are never erased. If what you heard today made you think, know this, more cases are on the way that will shock you, haunt you, and change the way you look at social media and the world around you. Be sure to subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. New investigations are released regularly, and trust me, you'll want to be here when the next story breaks. Before you leave, share your thoughts in the comments. What stood out to you most in this case? Your voice keeps these stories alive. Until we meet again, stay cautious, stay informed, and never forget, justice starts with truth. Global Crime Venue, uncovering the stories behind the screen.